Okay. Welcome back to the show. My guests today are Dave Sweet and Jordan Guildford. Can you two introduce each other for me?
Yeah, sure. So, let me start actually. We are, I think, good partners in crime. And this is Jordan Guildford. I have actually known Jordan for, I don't know, it's been about 7, 8 years. She is the CEO and founder of an organization that we know in the community as GEMS. It's an organization that's empowering women who have left intimate partner violence and abusive relationships. And through her vision and through her leadership, the program itself, the charity, the organization, has a number of streams that are doing exactly that. One of the first ones is a public awareness campaign that we know as Thrive. The second is a scholarship program that's helping women that are in need of advancement so that they can become financially stable after leaving an abusive relationship. And then we have a jewelry drive, which we just actually wrapped up earlier this year, or late this year, I guess, at Christmas time, where jewelry packages are sent to women in shelters across Canada. Lastly, a couple years ago, Jordan saw the opportunity to implement a Cradle program in the city. And again, through her leadership and through her vision, we now have Hope's Cradle here in the city of Calgary, which is a safe surrender site for unwanted infants that may have not had a chance to live if it wasn't for the Cradle program itself. And that program has gone national. And the Cradles are now found in Ontario, Manitoba, and Alberta as well. So that's Jordan in a nutshell, a dear, dear friend.
You go ahead.
All right. Well, that was lovely, Dave. Thank you very much. I'll try to do justice to you as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Mr. Dave Sweet over here, a retired detective from a prestigious police force in Canada. He's an incredible man. He does public speaking. He presents on his experience as a police detective. He's also a writer, a published author. A man that I have huge respect for, admiration, and someone who has supported GEMS for many, many years as a friend, but also as our board chair. And he was an absolutely instrumental in the creation and scaling of Hope's Cradle. I'm incredibly grateful to know him and support him fully.
Those were amazing. Thank you for doing that. I wouldn't have done that well. So
Honestly, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, dear friend. You know, I mean, that's I think how we both see each other,
100%.
And partners in crime for a very, very long time into the future as well. So,
can I start with how you guys met?
Oh boy,
yeah. How do you want to do it?
Dave, you're gonna do it.
I'm going to start it.
Yeah.
All right. So, a lot of my career was invested in the investigation of homicide, and through that, of course, I had opportunity to meet a variety of different families. And in one instance, I was actually investigating a case of a young woman who had been killed by an intimate partner. And as often is the case when families are struggling for the loss of a loved one, especially these like absolutely senseless losses, right? They find that they want to throw themselves into a cause, into an organization. They look to try and find meaning or purpose in some way, shape, or form to, I think, honor their lost family member. And so I was supporting a victim's family who was going through exactly that process, and on their own had reached out to Jordan, who was part of this initiative, GEMS, and they had started to communicate. And I think it was sort of through their encouragement and my support of the family that they really wanted me to meet Jordan. They thought she was a fantastic person, and so there was a coffee date set up to sit down and just sort of talk to Jordan a little bit about her organization, and if there was a way that I could help behind the scenes as well and help support her. And so we set up a coffee date, I guess, really, in South Calgary. And I don't remember exactly how it all goes down.
I was late.
You were late.
I was late.
You were late for sure. And in that time, I receive a phone call. And the phone call comes from Jordan's husband. His name's Tommy, and also a very dear friend now. But at that time, didn't know the man at all. And he calls, and I answer, pick up the phone, and he says, "Where's Jordan?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Who is this?" And so he tells me who he is, and he says, I'm just trying to find her. Like, I understand she's supposed to be meeting with you. Like, where are you? These kinds of questions, and like a bunch of red flags are going up. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh,
I'm in the middle of it.
I'm in the middle of somebody's like
Domestic
right here, right now. And even though she's the leader of this group, I'm thinking to myself, like, she is actually in need of support herself, right? Well, it turns out it was completely wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. So got off on a bit of an awkward foot, but yeah. I had messed up. I had put information in the calendar incorrectly. I was wildly late for Dave, wildly late to get home. And then Tommy was actually genuinely worried that something awful had happened to me and Dave was the only link.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Got off on a weird foot.
A totally weird foot, yeah. Like, there was red flags for Tommy, there was red flags for me, and it was all just a big misunderstanding. But
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah. What were you thinking at the time?
I didn't know, like, if I was trying to think about how I was going to sort of, make sure that I was being completely level with Tommy, so it wasn't going to cause her any problems. But I was also a little bit guarded in my responses because I didn't know what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And
Did
at the
you
end
tell
of
her
the
right away?
at the end of the coffee date too, he takes me to see his book and give me a copy of his book in the trunk of his car. So it just kept getting better and better and better.
Right, yeah.
Want to come see my book in my trunk?
And you went.
I went. History ever since.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling that story. Start off a little light. That's fun. I'll get a little bit of then background from the two of you.
Yeah.
So she had mentioned a lot about your police work.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit of your progression through that?
Yeah, sure. So, I was a member of a large Western Canadian police service. Began serving the community back in 1998. And my initial, I guess, deployment was like everybody's. I was a police officer in a uniform driving around, lights and sirens, answering calls for service, emergency calls. And then back in 2004, I completely changed directions, and I ended up delving into the world of drugs. And I worked as an undercover police officer for 3 years, from 2004 to 2007. And then transferred out of that, went to a guns and gangs team for about a year and a half. And then in 2009, I was invited to join the homicide unit, and that's where I spent the latter part of my career, about 14 and a half years.
So what were the transitions like between those different parts of the job?
Yeah, so I mean, they were all sort of wildly different. When I started policing, I think one of the goals I had set out a couple goals, but one of the goals I had set out is I wanted to have a really good 360-degree view of what policing is actually like, right? So I thought I needed to touch on a few different areas. So I certainly learned what it was like to be a uniformed police officer, the excitement of being, part of call responses, that kind of thing, which is what we all kind of think or view police officers are as, I think, in the beginning. But then to have that sort of perspective change where I go from the shiny button police officer into somebody that's a little bit more scraggly in appearance and hoodies and beards and long hair and all of that, stale beer and cigarettes, And I spent 3 years like that. And that was a huge transition, of course, from the uniform perspective, right? It was a lot of learning a new language, but a big steep learning curve for me. And then from that transition into the Guns and Gangs team, it wasn't as drastic or as dramatic for me, right? It was sort of within the same vein. I wasn't actually out there, you know, hanging out with bad guys, you know, like I was when I was in drugs, but I was watching bad guys do bad things when I was in Guns and Gangs, and still got to be a little bit scraggly in appearance and that. But the big transition, of course, came when I left there and I went into homicide. And you're into a suit and tie. Back then, it was a suit and tie. In 2009, ties was still a thing. That transition was definitely different because you know, you lost the beard and you lost the hair and all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
you're into a completely different world.
What about your behavior? How long did it take to kind of transition back?
Oh man, like I can still go back to the days of that undercover experience very, very quickly in my brain, right? Like if I start to think about it, I still respond to my old undercover name. My name was Ricky back then.
Ricky what?
Ricky Bones. Yeah.
You like that, hey? Ricky Bones.
Unbelievable. And yeah, like Ricky was, and it's funny to this day, you know, if I get a little bit gruff or I start to act a certain way, somebody will call me Ricky, and I know right away, right, that I'm being a bit of a jerk. But yeah, like mentally, like I can go back to that fairly quickly. So I guess it's never really completely left me, to be honest with you.
Have you ever seen people that only know you as that and never knew that you were undercover or anything?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there was people that I, you know, dealt with at the bars, like servers or whoever, that would probably just know me as that. Our relationships, though, back then, they were very fleeting, right? You're sort of in and out fairly quickly out of people's lives. It wasn't like I was spent months, you know, sleeping on some dude's couch. It wasn't
That's
like
what
that
I
for
was
me.
imagining.
Yeah. It's a lot different than what you picture,
Yeah.
right? There are very short interactions with people.
Oh, okay.
Nothing significant or long term for me, anyways. So,
For a little bit of lighter note, did you have
that's
any?
not light. That's weird.
Did you have any kind of funny experiences in your work?
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, there was always laughs. We always had laughs, right? Laughs was a big part of just the world of policing. We spent a lot of time laughing at each other and our little mistakes, our little screw ups. Trying to think of one that would have been.
Oh, you told me a story about a cat.
Oh yeah, the cat. That's a good one, actually. So like years ago, I was in homicide, and we sort of prided ourselves on being sort of snazzy dressers, right?
Always ready for the spotlight.
Yeah, we were always ready. I was always ready. So I had this brand new 3-piece suit. Really liked it, and we were investigating a murder somewhere, kind of over by a mall, I guess it was. And so I'm out there, and we're doing our neighborhood canvassing, right? And so where you go out and this happened to be a business area, and so I was knocking on different business doors and seeing if anybody had cameras or if they'd seen or heard anything weird and that. And we've been sort of unsuccessful in our canvas, walking back to the car with my partner, and there's this like orange cat just kind of walking through the parking lot. And it had a leash on it, but there was no owner attached to the leash. And I thought to myself, well, this cat's been cared for by somebody, right? At some time, and it's got a bloody leash on it, right? So I said to my partner, I don't feel comfortable. We can't just leave this cat here, right? We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with it. It's probably got a tag on it or something. So I spent the next few minutes trying to fish this cat out from underneath the car that had gone under. I got a hold of the leash and pulled it out and got it kind of into my arms and was struggling a little bit, right? But I get it into the like the unmarked police car, and as soon as I do that, I mean the thing goes absolutely apeshit, right? Like I don't know how else to explain it, but it loses its mind inside this car where I'm now in. My partner hasn't gotten in yet. He's closed his door, and I'm left in the vehicle with this cat who absolutely destroys my suit. Goes all the way up the one leg, cuts me and scratches me and shreds my one side of my suit.
Cats can be savage.
Oh, it was terrible. And it ends up in the back seat of this car. Fur everywhere. For months we had this cat's fur. But the incredible thing was as I was sort of feeling bad for myself and not knowing exactly what we were going to do with the cat, I'm on the phone to, I don't know, it was the SPCA or whoever was going to come pick up the cat, and this old fella comes strolling through, and he's looking for the cat. And so my partner sort of speaks to him for a minute, and we find out it is this cat that he's looking for, the one that's in our car. And it was incredible, actually, because what it was this cat was like his wife had just passed. This cat was his wife's cat. It was sort of his last linkage to his wife, and he so desperately wanted the cat back. Obviously, why he went looking for it.
Yeah.
And to be able to give it back to him and watch sort of the reunion between him and this cat meant something. And it really kind of, actually, it just sort of highlights, I think, these like little small things that we can do every day. We have opportunities to do them. We all do. We see opportunities to help, even if it's an animal or a person or whatever. You don't know what is actually happening on the other side of that help. And that really put an exclamation point on why I think it's important that we always act and do the right thing when it presents us in front of us. You know, for this gentleman, that meant the world to him to have that cat returned to him.
Yeah, I understand that. My aunt passed away, and she had a cat, and kind of my grandma took the cat, and now if the cat is out and doesn't come back right away, she's full on panic, like she's reliving that. So that makes sense. Yeah, people with their animals.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So that was one that I remember we had a good laugh about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think the funniest thing is just the memory of that day lasted in that car for a long time. Like that cat lost a lot of fur, and it's like franticness to get out of the car.
That's funny. I'm gonna hop back and forth. I feel like you're left out right now. So I'm gonna bring you in.
I'm used to it with Dave.
I'm bringing you in.
Okay.
You do a lot, it seems like. How do you even have time for all this? It seems like that was a longer sheet than his. You have like a couple charities, businesses. Can you give me a little bit of background on those?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, to get right to answering your question, it's all doable because I have people like Dave, people like the rest of our board, our ambassadors that stretch across the country, that everyone, I mean, GEMS is based on the premise that people can do what they can, when they can, and how they can. And it has all been created by people doing exactly that. It's what we call a livable commitment to our cause. And I think the really special thing about that is that when organizations often feel the need to say, you have to give this much time in this specific way, I think it really limits what people can actually achieve together when they're working in a way that it works with their life in a livable way. So GEMS, I can do it because I have so much help from such wonderful, kind people that are all focused on the same vision.
But she does work, as the chairperson, one that's supposed to be her oversight. I can tell you that there is not many people out there that work harder than Jordan Guildford on a daily basis. So we are blessed to have her in our community, working for people that find themselves in some really, really bad spots. Yeah.
Thank you.
How long has GEMS been going? And can you tell me all the different things that you do?
Sure.
Well, not all of them, but the main.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
So next year will be the 10th anniversary of GEMS. So actually at our last board meeting, we were chatting about what we're going to be able to do for the anniversary. So had some fun ideas across the table there. But Dave covered really well the initiatives that we have, but on a daily basis, in order to be able to support those initiatives, I do things like this, like meeting with other people who, again, maybe have time or resources or funding that can really move the needle forward. Right before I came in here, I was on a call with a really wonderful woman in Kelowna who was working to be able to bring Hope's Cradle there. And in order to be able to get a Hope's Cradle across the line, I mean, it could be 50 hours, it could be hundreds of hours, depending on who's working with them. Is it one funder? Is it multiple collaborators? So in order to be able to make any event happen, any Hope's Cradle happen, there's a lot behind the scenes. Like I said, I have an incredible team, and what I can do is put my time, energy, and passion behind it. But it happens because everyone's pitching in.
It's amazing. In 10 years, congrats.
Thanks. Thank you.
And then what, as a chairperson, what do you do for that?
Again, I'm just trying to support the initiatives. One part of a bigger team. We have a very, very dedicated board of directors, and I think a lot of time is spent. We have our meetings and that, but a lot of time is spent actually going out and really flying the flag of the cause itself, right? And the organization itself, whether it's attending it's been so many great experiences have come just from being part of that. Like last year, one of the big things that Jordan and her team had been working on was a polo tournament called the Gems Cup, right? And I mean, I think I was surprised I was surprised on the day when we actually got to the event, how much had actually really truly gone into it. It was such a testament of hard work behind the scenes, outside of my even purview as the chairperson. And I was astonished to see how much time and effort had been put in to this event to raise money to help our charity continue to move forward. But those are the types of events that I have been fortunate enough to be able to participate in often just as a guest. And we've had several of those over the years, well, more than several. And so a big part of what I'm doing is going out to those events, supporting Jordan, standing side by side. And I'm offering, I think, something that is really, really important. I'm offering a voice to men, which is, historically not been part of the discussion when it comes to intimate partner violence and abuse. There's good reasons for it, obviously. Women that have found themselves in abusive relationships have a hard time trusting men. Makes perfect sense. But what that has also led to is men sort of not having as much of involvement or voice at the table all of the time when it comes to these issues. And so Jordan and I as a team go out, and she's the yin and I'm the yang, and we try to both spread a message from different perspectives on it all.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when Dave speaks, I have the privilege of being able to be there and watch the crowd and see how people react. And women, a lot of times, the women that we work with, Dave's the first man that they have listened to that feels like an actual knowledgeable ally, which is so special to see that. And then you watch the men, and some of them gets shifty with it, and it's pretty easy to see the ones that are uncomfortable with this conversation, and that's always a bit of a flag. But then there's so many men that listen and nodding and leaning in and looking up to Dave and wanting to do better and be better. And after Dave speaks, he's always has people coming up to him, thanking him for how he advocated for the man's role in being able to end the cycle of abuse. Because the bottom line is that it does take both sides of the equation. It's a huge problem. And without rallying together, we're never going to do anything that will last. So he has a huge role, a really impactful one.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to, if you're like thinking about problems, you know, and how we're going to solve a problem. Well, the first thing you have to do is address the problem itself, right? And this is where people get a little bit uncomfortable sometimes.
I've seen it happen
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why men react like that. Even men who obviously haven't done that, but they just still react that way. Like they're defensive for.
Yeah, they blame a woman's manipulation. It's the reason why they have to be abusive for, you know,
Right.
it's a bunch of shit, you know. Like, but that is, you know, we've seen the comments, you know, when people, yeah, it's an uncomfortable conversation for some men, you know.
I think the part of where that comes from as well is that the times have changed and they've changed rapidly. So even when I was younger, going out to pubs or whatever, it was nothing for men to treat women kindly in a way that is wildly inappropriate. Even then, but is now known to be very inappropriate. But it just wasn't taken in the same way. So now when men hear the lines being placed and people saying, well, this is not okay, they look back and like, ugh, I did this and this and this
Yeah,
and this.
totally.
And there's an inherent sense of, well, they're talking about me. And that's where, you know, something that really resonates throughout GEMS is that when you know better, you do better. And just because you did something in your past doesn't mean that you can't change it now that you do know better. And we really look to be able to lead by being an example of how it looks and feels to what we call be the change that we want to see in the world. And I think it's really important to understand that whole bit of when you know better, you do better. So you don't have to be shackled by your past. Do better now.
You know, and it's such an important thing, like, to remember that. You know, 30% of our daughters, 30% of our daughters at some point in time are going to experience some sort of sexual violence towards them. 30%. That's 3 in 10 girls. In 2022, 184 women were killed in Canada. That represents a woman being killed, a woman or a girl being killed in Canada every 48 hours, actually just under every 48 hours. That statistic has changed. When Jordan and I first started working together 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was, 7, it was a woman or girl was killed in Canada every 5 to 6 days. Now we're down to 48 hours, right? Something dramatically has to start to change. And it's probably a big part of it is the prevailing attitudes that we have around this as men. And knowing when it's time to step up and stand up. You know, $7.4 billion a year is put into this to try and prevent something that is just so easy to prevent if we as a group let's just take care of ourselves, do better. Call out poor behavior, call out our buddies when we see something that we know isn't right, you know. Don't ignore the person walking by you in the grocery store with the black eye. Ask what's going on. Everything's okay, right? There's lots of things that we as men can do, but you know, to try and start to right this ship a little bit. But it is our responsibility to do that. It comes through education in our families, how we're educating our own sons, the example that we play when it comes to our own relationships, making sure that our children see what a healthy, loving relationship looks like versus an unhealthy one, all of those things. And that's why I think, well, this is what my voice is in this whole narrative. It's how I view it as a man.
Are there still people that think you shouldn't speak on it because you're a man, like angry with you even speaking about it?
No, I don't think there's people in general I don't think people don't like the message because, like I said,
message is good.
Calls him out.
yeah, it's, you know, for some people that maybe are trending in that way, it makes them very
But
uncomfortable.
Dave even says that. If this bothers you, think about, are you trending in the wrong direction?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, ugh, you see them recoil even more.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
love that, though. I love that.
Go seek help, right,
Yes.
Jay? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
That happens in person too. I
Oh,
know
gosh,
it's
yeah.
easy online because
No,
they don't
no.
have.
When he speaks in person, especially if you look at the polo event, that's a lot of men and a lot of and women obviously too. But usually when Dave speaks with GEMS, it's people who have come specifically for GEMS. So when you look at the polo event, there was a lot of people that just came because it was a really fun event. August 9th, everybody put it in your
I
calendars.
was gonna ask you. I don't want to sidetrack you in the middle, but can you tell us about that event and
Yeah, sure.
how you
Yeah.
came up with it?
Yeah, yes. My son actually started playing polo, and we are not of that world. But my son is a great little rider, and he really wanted that opportunity. So I spoke with the president, and he was lovely. He's like, well, we're putting the fees down by half this year. I was like, yeah, that's not going to be good enough. And he's like, okay, well, let me think about it. So he incredibly generously asked if Gaby would be interested in being essentially his groom's groom. And my son took it. He's 11. He had just turned 11 at that time, and he took it immediately. And in exchange, it was going to be an opportunity for him to be able to ride the polo horses, exercise his horses, and get some real time on big, amazing horses and play. And because of that, I got to know the board chair there, the president of the club, and I pitched this idea because I was already kind of in it. And they said yes immediately. And the polo club has been huge, a great supporter, really, really kind. And we're very excited to be partnering with them again for Gems Cup #2.
It's honestly for being just an observer, going there and being an observer, not having anything to do with the actual. It was the event of the summer last year. It was truly the event of the summer last year. And we went to lots of events, but that was the event of the summer.
I didn't even know we had polo here. Is it?
Dwinted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really cool. It's great that you can network with such a good cause and set things up like this.
Well, I think again, too, kind of further to what I mentioned as far as the ambassador team, when you are open to people working with you and not always just requiring funding from them, my gosh, people open their hearts and open their time and their energy and their contacts. And that's what the Gems Cup was. It was a beautiful culmination of people showing up the way they could consistently, including an unbelievable group of our ambassadors that showed up every single Monday, and we worked tirelessly the whole year. And that's already been happening since September again for this next one. So it really is, and every aspect of Gems is a testament to people being able to show up in the way that they can. And I think honestly, like if everybody in the world was showing up the way they can, we would live in a very, very, very different world.
Oh, I love that. That's totally true, Jay.
That's
totally
what we experience with Gems.
Yeah.
Period.
Is there events forming like that in the other cities that are operating?
So the Gems Cup is Calgary based, period.
Yeah.
Who knows down the road if we'll expand. I have
Just
some pretty
other-
cool ideas. But,
Yeah.
but Thrive, we're open to being able to have our Thrive program, which teaches self-defense, financial literacy, coping skills, and resilience. Everything is very focused on having a high impact and introductory level of information to women in each of those categories. And the whole point of Gems across the board is to be able to help women who are looking and ready to be able to take that next step. And sometimes that next step is through our scholarship program, which we give full scholarships, which we're so proud of. And we've had huge success. 100% of the graduates are independent business owners now. So that is, like, I mean, that just...
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I was reading about that earlier. I didn't know. That's an amazing program too.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
so proud of that. But it's an opportunity. So we don't do the work for the women, but we meet them where they're at. And we give them an opportunity that with a hand up, this is the life you deserve and this is the life you can have. So Hope's Cradle does the same thing in its way for women. I mean, the beautiful thing with Hope's Cradle is that it saves both the women and the baby because it is a legal safe surrender option. So it's anonymous, which is wonderful. So they can have that anonymity, which is required for so many reasons, be it trafficking or an abusive relationship or lots of other things. But it also, because it's legal, as long as there's no harm done to the baby, the police won't be looking for the mother because she hasn't done anything illegal. So
Yeah.
it gives the mother and the baby an opportunity at a new life.
And where's that set up?
So we have one here at the Children's
Children's?
Cottage, in Calgary. And then we also have one in Manitoba and Ontario, and then also in Strathmore as well. But like I said, we're looking at one in Cochrane. We have a lot that's coming through the pipe for 2025. So it's going to be a big year. I'm very excited.
Yeah, a big year.
Yes.
Jordan, you didn't touch on it, but I mean, you're just part of, again, through our ambassadors, right? And our ambassadors are really, they're just, they're volunteers who have decided they're going to commit time into the organization to help see some of these initiatives forward. And so like Jordan's team of ambassadors just recently went through like jewelry drive that led to jewelry packing. Maybe just talk really quickly about that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's actually where the name Gems for Gems came from. And we've now shortened it to just Gems, which we've been calling it Gems forever anyway. But so it actually started with a jewelry drive. And I had absolutely no thought of creating a charity at all. I just wanted to be able to do something nice for survivors of abuse in shelters on Christmas morning, because I came from a background where my mom raised my brother and my sister and I alone, and we lived in pretty extreme poverty. Like, we didn't have heat, hot water, food often, but my gran would always give us $20 each at Christmas time. And this one Christmas, my brother and my sister and I pooled our money when I was 14, and we gave our mom a little bracelet. And it looked like leaves kind of woven together, and we thought it was diamonds in it. Definitely not. But it was the prettiest thing we could afford and that we saw, and we were so excited to give it to her on Christmas morning. But when she opened it, she just started bawling and left the room, and it left us mortified. It's interesting because we all experienced kind of a different form of that mortification, because for me, I was worried that I shone a light on what my dad should have done for her. My sister was just upset, period. Like, whatever the bad situation was, we just made it worse. And then my brother, who is 6.5 years younger than me, was like, oh, I knew we got the wrong one. But then she came back and she had put her makeup on and put on her best clothes and did her hair, and she sat us down and she told us that this little piece of jewelry had put her back on her own radar. So when I moved here about 10 years ago from Nova Scotia, I was blown away by the beautiful initiatives at Christmas time for children, but I did note that there was nothing for the mothers. And I told that story at a dinner party, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to collect gently used jewelry from women in the public, make little packages, and give them as Christmas gifts. Anyway, it blew up. It was amazing. First of all, every woman in that room went to their group of friends and they collected. And then Orange Theory in Seaton, which was only Orange Theory and the liquor store at the time. And between all of us, which I had just moved here, I didn't know anybody, they rallied so big that we were able to do packages of 3 to 5 items for 436 women. Wow. Which was, it was almost all the women in the shelters in Calgary at that time, which now, sadly, it's gone way up from there. But at the time, that almost did it. So I knew I wanted to keep doing it, and I just didn't anticipate how big this was going to get. But I'm awfully proud to be a part of the team that's made this possible. And now we've done 28,000 gifts as of this year across Canada.
Over how many years?
It's 10 years for the jewelry drive, but then we got registered as a charity the following year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And, you know, one of the great things and one of the things that I love about that whole initiative, and always have, is the donations of gently used jewelry are coming from women in our community. And they're given to women in our community. And the women that are receiving that as a gift, I think, can see that they are supported by the women in our community just through receiving the gift of jewelry. One of the sad things about domestic abuse and violence is I think sometimes victims of it no longer see them. They don't believe they're seen. Like they're almost hidden, right? Or they feel they're almost hidden and they're not seen. And so by being able to have a program like that, an initiative like that, that's a way that the women in our community can say to those that need that empowerment, we got you. We see you. And, you know, Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of people that go through the program that you offer and then become ambassadors or donate to things like that? Do you
Yes.
see that? Yeah.
Yes.
All
I
of them?
actually, Yes, I don't know of one that has not contributed in some way, shape, or form afterwards. And definitely, I mean, one of our first scholarship actually was given in honor of, or in memory of Nadia El Dib, which is the case that brought Dave and I together. And the recipient was a beautiful woman by the name of Danielle McMahon. And she joined our ambassador team within 6 months of receiving the scholarship. And she speaks at as many events as she can get to about how much it changed her life and the trajectory she was on before she felt championed by Gems for Gems. So I know that be it survivors who join the ambassador team and find purpose in their life by helping other women, to the scholarship recipients, to women who donate to the jewelry drive, to women who receive it, everyone gets a sense of purpose and value, not only in their action, but then for themselves by being involved in these high impact initiatives. And I think that is an undercurrent through GEMS that we really don't highlight very often, but it makes us all better people. And I think that's so special.
Yeah, that's beautiful that it can spread like that.
But just, you hear her story and you think about, like, Jordan sees this at a dinner party, an opportunity, right? And that's what makes her uniquely special and uncommon to many of us out there. Because we don't always act on what we don't always try to figure out a way to fill that void. She did. And I mean, there are others out there that do it. And every time somebody does do it, we have to really tip our hats to them, because they are truly in it for nothing more than to make the world a little bit better for somebody else. And hopefully, people are watching the show, like, no idea is a bad idea, and if it's going to go to the benefit of other people, it's a great idea. And just do it.
Yeah, one of the few really challenging aspects of growing GEMS was actually the sector and some of the leaders in the sector. And a lot of the pushback we got was just that, why wouldn't you just put your whatever, like your effort, your energy towards supporting what's already out there? And what I don't like about that is that there isn't one way of healing. And one of the ways of healing is taking action to help other people. And we've been able to mobilize thousands of people every single year that are healing through helping other people. How can that be bad? It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful for the recipients, and it's wonderful for the people who are taking action. And I'm a huge believer in action being the key to changing your trajectory. And sometimes the trajectory that we're changing is what's going on inside, and sometimes it's a change of your daily activities. But action is the key. And through GEMS, literally thousands of people take actions in the right directions, benefiting other people every single year. And I can't ever see that as a bad thing. So I think it's important to not feel you always have to reinvent the wheel, but if you have something different that you want to do, to anyone listening to this, do it.
Yeah.
And don't be worried if it works for 1 year or if it kind of half works. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one person was helped by it. That's wonderful. Yeah. And congratulations.
Yeah. That's a good message. I'm just going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back, I guess. And we're back. So, Jordan, you were talking about earlier the livable commitment. Can you touch more on that?
Sure. Thanks for asking. What I mean by that is that everyone's life goes up and down, and we have careers, we have family commitments, we have sometimes aging parents, all kinds of things. And what I mean by livable commitment is that GEMS works through everybody's life commitments, and it doesn't matter to me or to any of our team if you have to focus on your career or your family or whatever, because we're always there, and we always leave that door open for ambassadors to be able to focus on life, come back, do some sort of hybrid. I mean, you look at our board of directors. I mean, Dave is a perfect example of this. Like, Dave does consulting. He's a keynote speaker. He's an author. His presentations are, I have to say, anyone listening to this, you should get Dave out to either a group of people or your family or whatever. His presentations are amazing, and you customize them so well too. So it's, I mean, it can be on homicide, it can be on leadership, it can be on anything. Like, he's amazing. And through his career, he has learned extensive amounts in all of these categories, and he really hones in on that. But that's kind of my point. So as Dave has found his way after retiring from being an active duty detective, he has had time, not had time. Sometimes I'll get a call and be like, Jay, yeah, I'm in it right now. And that's great. And yet it's that type of understanding that you can have a crazy time in your life and still make a difference. And it goes back to what I said, as far as the understand that anything you do is meaningful, and that you don't, I think a lot of people don't action because they think it's not big enough, not good enough, not whatever, not going to make enough change. But again, if we all did those little things, we would have a very different world to live in. And yeah, I mean, I do gems, I consult, I do a few different things, and it's all possible because we work together.
You know, before it was ever a meme, and I think it's become a meme now, but I had a partner 25 years ago, old surly guy. And we had been to a call together where I was impatient to leave. It wasn't a really exciting call. It was a break and enter. Right? But of an elderly lady in her home. And he spent way too much time, in my view, at that time anyways, talking to her about her family and the people in her photos and all of those things. And while all that was happening, there's this like crazy police chase that was happening over the radio that we weren't a part of. And I remember feeling so bad for myself that we weren't part of this amazing call that night. And when we finally got back to the car together, I remember him sitting back and, you know, snapping his tone. He dropped his, you know, glasses down. Yeah, exactly. Glasses down onto the tip of his nose. And when he looked at me that way, I knew I was in trouble. And he said, you know, if we're going to work together from this point forward, we're going to leave people in a better place than we found them. And by taking that extra little bit of time to talk to this woman about her family and then follow it up and remind her how fortunate she was to have a family. Lots of people don't. Left her in a bit of a better place, in a better space in her brain. And I do think that we all have that ability. You know, a smile is free.
Yeah.
And you can just give one today and it's going to leave somebody better than, you know, when you first came across them. So there's a lot to Jordan's message and that sort of that philosophy, but I think it's really, really important that I want to live in a safe community. I want to live in a healthy community. I want to live in a happy community. And I'm sure the majority of us do. And none of us need to take big, giant steps to get there. Just small little ones that cost you nothing will get you there. So that's, I think, a really important part of Jordan's message. Yeah.
So how do people get involved?
With GEMS? So, I mean, there's the ambassador program for sure, which we accept applications for. And really what we're looking for with that is to be able to have people who are in alignment with our cause, and not just with our cause, but how we go about being able to end the cycle for as many women as we can. So if the alignment's there and they're ready to be able to align themselves, they would get accepted to the ambassador team. So that's one way, and it's actually the ambassadors that help run the Thrive program, and the ambassadors that we're hosting at the GEMS Cup, and all the public facing and the behind the scenes stuff. The ambassadors are involved in every aspect of it. So there's that. Obviously, there's fundraising. There's being a funder, a donor. There's also connecting us to people who can help. Hope's Cradle is a big one that we need people to be able to introduce us to different places, different fire stations or pregnancy care centers. There's several places that we can have Hope's Cradles. So that's a biggie as well. Like, there's a lot of different, basically, if you like what GEMS does and you have any interest in helping out with any area of it, write to us and we'd be happy.
I'll put a bunch of links below this video.
That. Thank you.
You send them to me later.
I will.
Yeah, all sorts of links.
Thank you.
And what about for you? How can people reach you and get involved with some of the things you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you are somebody that's out there that's interested in a sort of a unique, unconventional speaker to come in and share stories about some of the share some of the wisdom and the skills that I think are so transferable from what I did through a life of service into the regular world, you can reach me at theunconventionalclassroom.ca. Also on Instagram and Facebook and I don't know, a bunch of things. TikTok, if you can believe. TikTok.
Oh, you're doing well on it too.
Yeah, not
Get some
bad
good
actually.
traction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I and ghost talks too.
Oh
Everything.
yeah. I can. Yeah.
I just
If
think
you have
it's,
an idea, I can try and come up with something. For
yeah,
you.
it's really easy to pigeonhole Dave into homicide and
Yeah.
dark stuff and ghost stuff and all of that. And is he amazing at that? Super engaging? Yes. But I think where people also need to understand is that so much of the wisdom that he has gained through his career is in leadership, is in conflict resolution, is in corporate stuff. Like there's a lot. And so I think I would encourage people to really look at Dave and see the multidimensional side of how his skills can be applied because corporations could use it, boards could use your help too. I mean, it's endless, and his speaking is so engaging and oddly you make people laugh and everything, no matter how macabre the conversation is. But yeah, like on the leadership side, all of it, he's just there's a lot to Dave, and I would encourage people to really expand their thoughts on him.
One thing I don't ever want to do is obviously do any harm.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I do and everything I talk about, I think I do it with responsibility to do no harm, and to just help encourage, empower, motivate, whatever it would be, have people think differently about change or uncertainty, all of those things. So
I've learned a lot. I didn't like the environmental design stuff.
yeah.
I didn't know that even existed until talking to you.
Oh yeah, who would know that you can change little tweaks in your environment through design
Yeah.
can like target harden you really to unwanted behavior and criminality, but it does. And really simple little things that we can all do that, once when somebody points them out to you, it seems all like pretty common sense stuff, but we never, a lot of us need help just having those things pointed out to us. So,
Yeah, like trim your bush and
trim your bushes.
Put a light out.
It was great. There was crazy. Like just real quickly, just as an aside on this, just with this crime prevention stuff, it's so bizarre. So where I live sort of in the inner city, and we have an open back parking area, right, where we had people coming down, using drugs and having fires, which was the biggest issue, right? But a lot of sort of unwanted behavior. And looked at the back space and thought, well, how could we change that? And so what we actually did was I sort of pitched to the small board that we have at the building. I said, we just need to designate our space a little bit better and define it a bit more. And we painted 2 yellow lines at the top of the entrance into this parkade. Solid yellow lines. And now we probably reduced the amount of foot traffic down into our space by about 70%.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
2 yellow lines.
Would have never thought of that.
Well, we've all been told don't cross double solid lines. and so there's actually ridiculous. I have so many videos of people actually going up to the line, thinking about it, walking the line, and then
Opting out.
It's so bizarre. But that's crime prevention through environmental design.
How did you just learn about that, like through your policing work, or did you study that stuff?
Yeah, I know. I took courses on it, and now it's, once you understand sort of some of the concepts behind it, you can better advise or consult or talk to people about what they can do to their own spaces to create those, safer areas. Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah.
So what do you have coming up? Either of you, anything big coming up?
Well, Gems Cup.
What
Yeah,
in August.
Gems Cup. It's gonna be amazing.
What's the year looking like for the two of you? Start of the new year.
Well, we've got a Thrive event that will definitely be happening the week of International Women's Day, which is in March. We have 2 scholarship applicants that we are processing right now, so we're excited about that. Thrive will be a larger one at likely the public library, so that's what we're working towards now. Gems Cup is a biggie, and so that will take place August 9th, and tickets will be for sale, I think in April for that. But right now we're still we're almost all sold out of the tables and are all sold out of the high tops, but we're looking for sponsors. So if anyone would like to get involved in that, then I'd be happy to chat about that. And we have all kinds of different sponsorship levels and everything too. 100% of the proceeds go directly towards GEMS. So we're looking at those scholarship applicants, and we'll be able to fund them because of the GEMS Cup last year, which is awesome. So awesome. About 80% of our scholarship applicants apply for our collaborative scholarship with the Aesthetics Institute, and they're incredible. They championed us right from day one, and they provide a matching program for us. So every scholarship that we pay for, they give us one, which is awesome. It obviously doubles the impact, and we're incredibly grateful for it. But yeah, so we're going to have a busy year. We're also working on some special projects behind the scenes as well. So we got Ian Anderson on our board last year, who's the past CEO of Trans Mountain. And his expertise has been really wonderful with being able to help us kind of fill in some of the missing spots that we didn't even know needed to be filled, which is really exciting. So GEMS is coming out of 2024 and into 2025 much stronger and really well positioned to be able to expand and move into a much broader space than what we have traditionally. So we're all very excited about that.
And for 2025 and some of the other stuff outside of GEMS that's happening for me, hoping to get a 3rd book out. I've got 2 out.
I have my wife and my grandma reading your book. So.
Yeah, that's
They're
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love them.
So I got 1 more coming out, I hope, by the end of 2025. And then I'll be done with books. I won't do another one after that.
We'll see.
Yeah. No,
We'll see. Maybe the reception, they'll bring you back in.
Nah, I think I've always just thought 3 book series. That would be about it.
Because you're a hockey guy. You're looking for the hat trick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then I'm gonna spend a lot of time in 2025 in the beer leagues.
Nice.
At 10:30 at night, you can catch me at most hockey rinks somewhere around the city. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting 2025. And the secret to all of our success is always to surround ourselves with successful people, and surrounding myself with people like Jordan and some of the folks that she's mentioned have absolutely guaranteed that 2025 will be full of new experiences, surprises, and successes. So yeah,
It's never a dull moment with our team, Dave.
never a dull moment with you.
Yeah.
I think we're good. We're good for time.
Awesome.
How do you feel about that? Good?
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having us. This
Appreciate
is
it. It's been
wonderful.
fun.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I just take the headphones off.